Hello and welcome to our show today. We're so glad that you're here. We're glad we're here too. Our
Yes.
Daily Reset for Success series is here to help all of us reset our lives so we can live a healthier, happier, more creative, and prosperous life. Um, Today, we have our co hosts, myself, Marian LaSalle, creator of Spotlight Productions. And we also have Lady Lou, the baby boomer babe, offering custom interviews. And today, we have back with us for part two, Cesar Rincon. Good
Yay.
morning, Cesar.
Good morning, ladies. How are you doing?
Great.
Secrets to reboot your business.
Absolutely.
We're
No,
ready to know that because so many folks are having challenges right now. This is a perfect time to reboot.
yes. So yeah, no, it was a great being on the show a couple of weeks ago, and just super excited about what's going on, and especially that I feel like we're coming out of the ice age where everything was frozen and it's starting to thaw out, and there's life starting to kind of come back to, especially here in Texas. I don't know where
Yes.
people are watching from, but here in Texas, it seems like life is starting to slowly come back.
And if you watch the news, it's like, doomsday. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to us. And people are being laid off and no one's working. Well, you know what? I'm here to tell you that if you want to work, there is work out there. There's work right here on your computer at home. You do not have to go and put yourself out there where you feel uncomfortable or, you're doing a job that you don't want to do. There's a lot of different things that you can do. You can pump up your business. You can start a brand new business, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, it's been amazing to watch this kind of renaissance, like everything's starting to go back to normal. And like you said, Marianne, it's
Normal.
interesting.
There's no normal here. Okay, Cesar, come on.
Yeah, well,
It's better than normal.
I think it's interesting because I think this whole situation really puts a lot of things into perspective.
Yes.
We've been very fortunate. For example, with children, we've been very fortunate. Our children are a little bit older, 16, 18, and 20. So they've been pretty self-sufficient when it comes to schoolwork. They do their work. They're in their rooms. Quite frankly, I don't even know what's going on. We just know the grades are there and they're doing what they're doing, right? And we trust them, and they've always been good students and so forth. So it puts parenting into perspective. It puts how much time we spend on the roads into perspective. It puts a lot of things into perspective when we've been pretty much on lockdown for so long. It wasn't like a weekend, like the hurricane or something. You stay home for the weekend and
I
then
was thinking about
yeah.
that the other day. I thought, there's been several times when I've been, having to stay home with no electricity or whatever, but it's been a very short period of time. It's
Right.
never been this long, you
Right.
know?
Yep. Well, and there's been two types of people during this pandemic, right? The people who did something good with it, and then the people who've just been on vacation.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
And we talked
Personally,
about that last time where we all took a few days, maybe a week,
right,
to
right,
just like chill out. But then it was time to let's get back to work. Let's reboot our business. Let's start a new business. Let's do something. Don't just sit there, right? No one wants
right.
to atrophy.
Yes. So, following up on the conversation from last time, we were talking about 10 secrets. I think we covered till number 5.
Mhm.
So I say we pick it up at number 6, and number 6 is to get organized. Okay. One of the challenges in business is that as small business owners, we're very scattered. We tend to be scattered because we wear multiple hats.
Yeah.
And so, and I like to say in a physical word, you're the janitor, you're the doorman, you're the accounting person, you do everything, right? And so one of the challenges is that as individuals, and especially, most people who are watching this are solopreneurs or small business owners. One of the biggest challenges is kind of like being a cook at a busy restaurant, right? You've got 5 irons on the fire, and we tend to not advance as much as we could because we're doing a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit there. And so when it comes to time management, one of the things I learned early on was the concept of batching your tasks, right? So because a lot of people will make one phone call here and then send an email there, and then post something here and then post something there, and they're just kind of going around in circles. I used to make a lot of sales calls, and so I used to drive all over from Houston, and I'd go to my office in the basically central Houston, then drive to the Woodlands to a meeting, then drive to Katy to a meeting, then drive back to Spring or up north to a meeting, then another meeting in Pasadena, and then drive back to Houston in the same day. Yeah. And so when I learned this concept of batching, whether it's in the virtual world, try to batch your task. If you have phone calls to make, make 5, 6, 10 phone calls, block out an hour to make those phone calls and check them off the list, and then send the emails another time. And then, and once you get back into the normal world where you're out and about, if your business requires it, is to be able to geographically, and depending on where you are, geographically organize your appointments. Sometimes when I'm talking to people and they want to meet with me face to face, I say, what side of town are you in? And they're like, okay, I'm in Northwest Houston, for example. And I'll say, okay, great. Let me make a note of that. And then when I know that I'm going to be in that area, I'll give you a call. And that way we can figure it out instead of driving all over town,
Smart.
Because we spend a lot of time in the car. So I think that's very important. And then from an office standpoint, I learned very early on a place for everything and everything in its place. Right?
Cesar, I have to time out. You are a very exuberant man, and you like the hand gestures and everything, but every time you touch your computer or something like a desk, it's banging.
Yeah. It bounces. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I
have a cheap desk.
Oh yeah, it's coming through loud and clear.
I'll keep my hands to myself. I won't.
There you go. Well, don't forget, we do have an audience that just listens to us with earbuds in their cars, and when they're out.
So the okay, got it.
The audio is very important. Listen, yes. we are hearing you loud and clear, and we love it. We love your animation. It's exciting. I know when you come onto our show or you show up to a networking event in the past, everybody's excited because you have a presence about you, and we know we want to listen. It's one of those things. We want to hear what you have to say because what you say is really important and it will help us.
Thank you.
So, yes. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
Oh, no. I get. You know what? It's interesting because these are what kind of a little bit off target. It's what we call our blind spots, right? The way the sound is connected, I don't hear myself.
Right.
So when I'm banging, I have earphones, so I can barely hear the banging here.
That's right. Yeah.
But it picks it up. So yeah. So I appreciate that. Yeah. And I'm actually changing my microphone setup soon, so I don't have to. So I can bang all I want.
We have some audience members, and Steve Baker's in the audience, and he is trying to get himself organized and reboot his business. Not reboot it. He's been in business for how many years, Steve? Many years, and he wants to take it to the next level. So reboot, take it to the next level, start something new. We're excited.
Yes,
absolutely.
Oh my! So give us another tip, Cesar. One of those secrets.
So another tip is to you're doing your organization is create a follow-up list.
Yeah,
because most business never gets completed because the seller, the person, and again, every business is sales, right? If it's a business, if there's revenue being generated, somebody's selling something and somebody's buying something. Okay. So most business is never completed because of lack of follow-up.
Oh.
Okay. I have a very simple philosophy. This used to happen to me all the time. When I started selling airtime for the radio stations, I would go visit a client and they would say the usual, and I was very green. They would say the usual, well, we'll let you know, well, we have to think about it or whatever, right? And I have that type of personality where I'm just like 2 hours later, I forgot that I even went to see the other person. Right. I have the, depending on how which personality types you study or whatever. I like the colors. I'm a blue. Right. And so I'm just like the very, very blue, where I'm like, banging on the desk and all that. and so I would forget to follow up. I literally would have an appointment and then I would forget to follow up. And because they just didn't buy, or we didn't set the next appointment, right?
Yeah.
Which is another little tip. Always book a meeting from a meeting. Always schedule the next one. Okay. Even if it's 6 months ahead of time, like when you go to the dentist, right? You go to the dentist and then they give you your appointment, even if it's for 6 months from now. You always want to book that appointment. But anyway, following up. So what would happen to me is that let's go out visit, Joe's Donut Shop. And they're like, well, we're going to think about it. We have your card. We'll let you know. I'm like, okay, great. Let me know. We're here for you. And I would forget about it. 3-4 months later, I would hear Joe's Donut Shop on the radio on another radio station. Like, oh man, I should have called them. And whose fault was it? See, what I did was I prepared the land, and then somebody else came
pencil? Where's my pen? I got to follow up with Cesar. I forgot. He owes me an ad.
Exactly, and I got to follow up with you both. Exactly. See how that happens? It is going to happen, but if neither one of us follows up and nudges the other person,
that's right.
And so what could have happened with Joe's Donut Shop? It's not that they didn't like me or anything like that. Maybe that was the case, but what most likely happened is they got busy making donuts every morning. They lost my business card.
Yeah.
And then one day, another guy just happened to go get some coffee, said, hey, you should advertise on the radio. The guy said, yeah, I'd love to do that. Let's do it. And boom. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's our responsibility in our business to follow up and 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 follow up. And a friend of mine says you follow up till they buy or they die. Because
or they block you.
Or they ask you, hey, never call me again. Right.
Well, you're developing a relationship even though you're following up.
Yes. And so a couple of things on follow-up, because sometimes people ask me, hey, what's follow-up and what is harassing or hounding, right? So here's a couple of things. One of them is a reasonable time. Okay. Every month or so, if you send out a newsletter, I don't endorse any follow-up systems. I always encourage people to find their own. But, an email newsletter, a constant contact, monkey, one of those, MailChimp, that one, something, and I don't use one. Okay. But I encourage to use something like that, where you have an email, a newsletter, or something that you send out. Another great program that I've used before, I don't endorse it, I'm not a member or anything like that, is Send Out Cards. Okay. Mm-hmm. Where you can set up a recurring, every couple of months, hey, how you doing? Or the birthday card or things like that. Great programs. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, if you're making phone calls to follow up, have a reason to follow up, have something of value to follow up. And for example, let's suppose you're selling widgets, right? And you would call somebody and say, hey, Marian, it's Cesar, just calling to let you know, I know you still, not in the market for whatever, but just wanted to let you know there's an upcoming program that we're going to be doing, and just wanted to let you know that we're doing that. I know you're not ready right now, but just wanted to let you know. Just kind of have a reason to follow up, because most of the time people follow up, but they just say, hey, Marian, how's it going? Good. Hey, did you decide on attending our course? You have nothing of value to offer, right? So I love that. So that's very important that we follow up. And it's interesting because, when I was managing the television station, and even with my advertising agency, media companies would come to me to offer their channel, right? So that I would consider them for my clients' advertising. And they would call me once and say, hey, this is, Joe Smith from channel whatever. Okay, great. Yeah. They would even come for an appointment. And I didn't have anything to buy from them at that very moment. right? They might say, hey, we have this special promotion for the 4th of July, like, okay, great. If I have something, I'll let you know. But then he didn't come back in August or September, October. I just never heard back from them. Literally, and it happens all the time. So following up, having a system, something that they can that you can stay consistent, because I believe people buy when they're ready, not when we're wanting to sell.
Okay, so here's the other perspective. The person that you're trying to sell to. Now, let's look at from their eyes, okay? You come in all hot and heavy and you've got something to sell and you're so excited and you're going to do this and you're going to do that and they're thinking, I need to think about it. And then you go away and you never follow up. What does that tell them?
Exactly.
They're not important. You don't care about me. You only wanted it for the money. You don't really, we've got to figure out a follow-up system. You remember Russ Johns?
Mm-hmm.
Russ Johns and I came up with this great follow-up program, and we were going to help people follow up because we know how important it is. Right. And unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond anybody's control, kind of like that coronavirus thing, something happened and we had to drop that. But I have forgotten how important it is. I went on to something else, and just like you, I must be a blue because I've got all these other things going on, and I forgot to follow up.
Yep.
And how important that is, because I know I feel that way. If somebody just, runs up to me and I have this for sale, and then you never hear from them again. It's like, what happened to you? You didn't like me, or you were only in it for the money?
Right. And I agree. I talk about it in my book, where people almost, because remember, whenever you're selling something, you're excited, but they're busy running their business, their life, right? And guess what? Over the years, they've had that experience again, where people come in, they're hot and heavy about something, and then they disappear. So they think you're also going to disappear. So a lot of times, what I figured out is a lot of times they're actually putting you to the test by delaying. They're putting you to the test to see if you're for real.
Oh, that's a big one, Cesar, because a lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have your book near you?
A book? Yeah.
Yeah. And where can people buy your book?
On Amazon. They can just go on Amazon.
Secrets to Sales Success. And you have your follow-up program in there?
Well, I talk about it. It's one of the chapters that I discuss follow-up, and definitely it's something that it's the secret sauce. And it's interesting because I am not great at follow-up. Okay. We have to know what our strengths and weaknesses are. In my case, I developed the other skills so well that follow-up wasn't all that necessary. When I was in advertising, about 80% of my sales were made on the first visit.
Wow.
Now, that is not common. Okay. And now it doesn't mean that I literally walked out with a check, but I walked out with a commitment or an understanding that they were going to do that. But it wasn't always that way. When I started, maybe 1 out of 5. And then I got better learning other skills, learning to ask better questions, learning to ask situational questions. If I did this, would you do this? And so I was able to start a meeting with a completely, new person or prospect and have the conversation and really dig to see what they needed. And then at the end of the meeting, 8 out of 10 times, I would walk out with a commitment. Okay, great, let's do this. We're going to start in June.
You're banging again.
Yeah, it's because I have a really good microphone.
Okay. Sorry.
So anyway, so yes, absolutely. You want to have a follow-up system because, people just get busy, people forget. And it may not.
So let's talk about that then, because I think that's so important that we really need to give them some way to do that. Okay. So if you can't afford to hire somebody to follow up, because honestly, that's how I got a lot of things. That's how a lot of people got money out of me, is their follow-up. Okay. And I know it, and I saw it happening, and I witnessed it. I was in it, and I still bought. Okay. So if you can't afford to do that, because what they would do is they would have their assistants call me. Okay. After the third time, I was like, yeah, okay, let's just make a decision. Let's do it. Okay. I was on the fence. They kept giving me incentives, calling me. The third time, okay, let's do this. So if they can't afford to hire an assistant to call you, what's the next best way to follow up with somebody?
So, I mean, I guess it would depend. I think there's several touch points. Okay. There's a great book by a gentleman who passed away not too long ago by Chet Holmes. The book is called The Ultimate Sales Machine. Okay. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. When people ask me, what's a good book to build a business, it's called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. ChetHolmes. I
Wow.
don't get a dime for it or anything like that. But in his book, he talks about the Hot 100 or a concept called the Hot 100, where basically you pick out 100, and this is on a business to business situation, right? You pick out a target of 100 companies or 100 prospects that you want to get them to buy your product or service. And then you design a strategy where, you lay out a calendar, and basically, the first Monday of the month, I'll call them. And then the third Monday, the third Wednesday of the month, I don't know, whatever layout, staggered, you send them an email, or you send them a card, or you send them a gift, or whatever it is. It's obviously going to depend on a couple of things. One is what you're selling, so that the action or the interaction is appropriate, and also on the sales cycle. One of the things I talk about in advertising, which is also advertising is just mass salesmanship, is understanding the buyer awareness cycle. Because what does the buyer awareness cycle mean? It means how long between deciding or having some sort of interest in what you're selling and actually making a decision. So let me give you an example. We were talking about Chick-fil-A earlier, right? So if you're driving to work and you hear a commercial for Chick-fil-A and you didn't have breakfast that morning, you might make a U-turn or make a pit stop and buy. So the buyer awareness cycle was short, because you eat about every 4, 5, 6 hours. So you don't have to hear 500. Chick-fil-A doesn't have to follow up with you 500 times. They just have to catch you at the right time. Okay. Now there's other things like buying a home, which is typically a longer sales cycle. Typically, as I shared with you, I think last week, I don't know if on or off camera, I've developed a marketing program for my family members who are in real estate, and I'm getting involved myself. And one thing that I found is, as we're interviewing potential home buyers, is that they've been thinking about it for about 1.5 years.
Oh.
Okay. And they started working on their credit, and they started looking around, and so it's a long sales cycle. And right now it's interesting, because right now we're starting to figure out our follow-up program, because we've interviewed almost 400 people who are interested in buying a home. They don't all qualify right now, but what am I going to do with the 390 that are not buying right now? That's the secret, because eventually they can all buy.
Yeah, never give up on a customer.
Absolutely.
Because they need you, and they know they need you, but sometimes they don't know how to stay in touch with you.
Exactly. And as they say, the burden of proof is on me to make sure that I provide value to them, that I stay in touch with them, call them once a quarter if needed, figure out how, because like literally last night, we just started this a couple months ago, February, March, and April. We ran 3 little advertising campaigns. We have over 400 inquiries. We've been able to reach about 100 of them. We've met with about 25 of them. And right now there's about 8 or 9 contracts in place that we've turned those into sales. The challenge is the other 390, because they're all going to buy, because they all inquired to buy a home. And one of the things I talk about is very important to distinguish that when people inquire about your product or service, whether it's coaching, whether it's business exposure, whatever it is, they're asking for that service. I always say, if somebody calls about buying a home, they're not calling to see if we sell tractor trailer tires. They're calling because they want to buy a home.
Oh,
And
yeah.
whether they buy it now or in a year and a half or 2 or 5 years, they're eventually going to buy a home. And they're going to buy it from somebody. And hopefully we can stay in front of them long enough so that they call us and they don't even have to try or call anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And it's a system.
yeah, you've got to have a follow-up system, and especially if it's a scalable business. Interestingly enough, for me in my advertising business, I'm very open. My advertising, I don't have a big follow-up system because I don't want 500 clients. I don't, because the way my business is built, it's a more, I don't want to say select, but it takes a special kind of advertiser for mass media advertising, budget-wise, and everything else, and I don't want to grow to have 500 clients. That's not my goal. My goal is to have a good, steady business and help those businesses grow, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in a business that has volume or that has an end, see the challenge in advertising with if I get a client and I do a good job, I can keep that client for 10 years. I don't need to replace that client, right? But in real estate, the minute we go to the closing table, we have to start over again. We have to find
Next.
the next one, and the next
But
one.
there are referrals from those buyers.
That's what I was going to say. Hopefully we get referrals, but we can't count on referrals, right?
Right.
We have to be able to generate our own business. The referrals is the cherry on top.
Yes.
So that's what I'm actually going through right now. It's like literally last night, I'm like, okay, I got to figure something out, because otherwise it's just going to be, we can't just work with the buyers that are ready to buy now. We have to seed. We have to plow the land, put the seeds in, and keep watering, because they all eventually buy. So
That's true. That's
yep.
true. Wow, we have 3 minutes left. Do you have another tip for us?
Really?
I
Yeah.
know. How does it just goes so fast when he's here?
Okay, so I'm going to jump to the last one. There's a couple. Number 8, I think, is just get good at closing the sale, and we have to do another show on that, if I may self-invite myself.
Yes, we'll be happy to have you back.
Yes.
But here's the thing, and I mentioned it, the cherry on top: over deliver. Okay, see, most people under deliver. Most people do barely enough just to get to deliver on their promise, right? But most people, like you said, Marian, they don't follow up, and so people expect you not to follow up. People expect you to do an average job. So anytime you can, figure out a way to do the cherry on top. Okay, and what does the cherry on top mean? It means, like the baker's dozen, right? Hey, I ordered. I'll give you an example. A couple nights ago, my daughter, 9:30 at night, everybody had dinner. We all had staggered dinners because everybody's on a different eating schedule. So 9:30 at night, she says, "Hey, I want pizza." So I called Domino's, and boom, they delivered the pizza. But what did they do? They just delivered the pizza. What if the Domino's guy, the franchise owner from Domino's, threw in a couple of the little brownie bites that they have, or just a little extra that I wasn't expecting? Okay, we call it, my former boss at the TV station, Jim Calmanson, he calls it the +1. Okay, what can you do in your business to have that little extra? Okay, if you ship, physical products, what if you put in a couple of breath mints? Like, hey, here's a little extra. What if you do a bonus session? Instead of the consultation being 30 minutes, you make it 45 minutes, and catch them off guard and say, you know what, let's just go a little extra. Let's do another 45. Let's do whatever it is, but do a little bit more than they're expecting, because people are used to expecting barely what they have. If anything, they're expecting a little bit less than what they're paying for. So if you do just a little bit more, you're going to stand out, and you're going to win fans. So I would definitely say that, do that little extra.
that's the biggest secret of all, because people do like to feel special.
Yes.
And that look what he did for me. It's what's in it for me.
Correct.
So often. And that's such a tiny, tiny little thing to do. Thank you, Cesar. Let's do part 3, shall we?
Let's do it.
We'll get you scheduled right away. I think you're a wealth of information. Thank you for coming today. And we thank our audience for being here. And thank you, Marian, for all of your good works and your questions and your comments. And of course, Marian is our chief technical person. We love her for that. She keeps us on the air. And thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon, Cesar. I'll be in touch with you, and we'll reschedule and have another wonderful session like this.
Don't forget, all of the links that we have they're down in the description down below, so that you can reach out to Cesar. He's got a wonderful book. He's got advice. He's got all kinds of wonderful things, and he just started a new business. We really need to talk about that in part 3. How you were able to in this time start a brand new business.
Yes. And it's there for a lot of people. They just don't know what to do. And I think listening to you and getting your input can help so many. So thank you again for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank the audience. We love you all.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.